Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Piper Report. So I want to do a quick video response to one of Mouthy Buddha's videos. Now, the response itself is not really directed toward Mouthy Buddha, but it is directed toward the person Mouthy Buddha is directing, which is Greg Johnson. And a lot of what Mouthy Buddha says in this video, I agree with 100%. So I will also post the link to this video in the description. Be sure to check it out. But the person in question whose ideals I want to discuss goes by the name of Greg Johnson. Now, for those who don't know, Greg Johnson is a leading figure in the alt-right. Styx debated him, and many people are pushing for Greg Johnson to basically be the de facto leader of the alt-right. They basically want him to usurp Jared Taylor. Now, in my mind, even though Jared Taylor you could say he does align with the alt-right, I don't really see him pushing many alt-right policies. The interviews I've watched of Jared Taylor, the primary focus for him, the primacy of his arguments, was to basically prevent the white race and white culture from being exterminated. He uses examples, basically how it is not only all right, but it is almost required now for minority groups, like, let's say, blacks, that they should praise their heritage, they should celebrate their ethnicity. And there's nothing wrong with that. I completely agree they should have that right. But where I agree with Jared Taylor is that white people should also have that right. But the problem is that we don't see that. We just don't see that. A perfect example is the whole on college campuses, people put up "it's okay to be white" posters. And the common contention by many people was that was racist. Well, here's a reality check. It is okay to be white. It is fine to be white. And it's also okay to celebrate that you are white, just like black people can, just like Hispanics can. So that's where I kind of see Jared Taylor primarily focused on the white race, on preserving white culture. Whereas Greg Johnson, he basically is advocating for more alt-right policies. And people want him to basically be the de facto leader. And what he says here, I strongly disagree with on many levels, but we'll go over it quick. Now, the reason why I'm showing Mouthy Buddha's video of this is because he took some clips from the Worski stream where Greg Johnson was discussing his views. And I really didn't want to click on that video to watch the whole stream to find that. So I'm going to play what Mouthy Buddha cut. And just as Mouthy said, you should watch the whole live stream to basically get a better understanding of what Greg Johnson is referring to. One thing I will say, though, is that based on Greg Johnson's answers in these clips, I think that he would be an avid supporter of fascist economics. And there's a reason I think that, and I will get into that near the end of the video. But the authoritarian attitude that he has based on his policies, authoritarianism in terms of his political proclivities, I think do align would make me presume that he would align with the idea of fascist economics. So, yeah, but anyways, here is the video.
Do you advocate for state invasions of private liberties?
Yes, because adults all sometimes act like children. And in circumstances where adults are acting like children, it seems like we all want somebody to intervene, to put us on the right path, to save us from the consequences of our stupid decisions. We all need state intervention by wiser, more caring people to save us from the consequences of stupid decisions. And that's why state paternalism is a good thing. It's a good thing because it makes us freer if you understand freedom as getting what you really want, which is to lead a good life.
Is there anything you really like that would be banned in this new society you would create?
Is there anything that I really like that I would ban? Porn. I just love porn, and I would ban it tomorrow in a heartbeat, because really, when people get addicted to alcohol and drugs, they lose their freedom. They become slaves to the needle, slaves to their...
So you would ban alcohol in your favorite society?
Yeah. A good example of where negative liberty should not be permitted is highly addictive drugs. I think that people should not have the freedom to get hooked on heroin.
No,
They simply shouldn't have the freedom to do that. And if we make the penalties draconian enough, they won't seek it out.
I had to selectively edit.
So the problem with that last part there in his argument is that if you make the laws draconian, if you make them very severe, it doesn't really matter. You're just going to incentivize people to do more crime. Because when you're an addict, and I know some addicts, or I've known some addicts, I should say, you will do anything to get your fix. The person I knew stole a bunch of money from his parents always, but he wasn't reticent to go actually steal from others. So when you need a fix, you are desperate to get that fix. And if you make access to drugs, well, first off, there would still be access to drugs, because it doesn't matter if you make them illegal. They will be on the black market. There always will be. That's just the way of the world. But if you make it that much harder to get, there's going to be more crime, because people are going to try harder to get the funds to get those drugs. What's more, we can look at Portugal, for example. They decriminalized drugs, and not only did crime go down, obviously, the amount of overdoses went down substantially. And there's a reason for this. And the reason for this is that when you're a drug addict and you buy drugs on the street, we will say heroin for the sake of argument, you are buying a known quantity of an unknown quality. That means you don't know what you're buying. It looks like heroin, may taste like heroin, but there could be other chemicals in there, such as fentanyl. And fentanyl is like 100 times stronger than heroin. So you don't know what the dealer is cutting your heroin with. So your quality is always going to change, which will always put you at risk for overdoses. But if you would decriminalize all drugs and allow pharmacies to actually sell opiates and other narcotics over the counter, those same people would be buying a known quality of a known quantity. They know what they're getting. They could go to the pharmacy and maybe buy a vial of liquid Dilaudid or liquid morphine, and they could use that instead. What's more, we have spent, now this kind of goes to the libertarian in me, we have spent billions and billions of dollars on the drug war. A drug war that we have not seen slow down at all. We have done nothing to impede it. But we keep spending more and more money. Being a fiscal conservative who believes in smaller government and, well, fiscal conservatism, basically spending wisely, being careful with your money, don't spend it like it's not yours, is that if we would get rid of the drug war, all of those billions that we have, we could completely, and we could spend all of it on the Americans, on the American people in America. We could totally rebuild America, by far. And you would see overdoses go down, and you definitely will see crimes go down, which would also release the burden of prisons, which are primarily attended by those drug crimes. Primarily marijuana, which is just sad. If anything, I mean, if you're against all drugs being illegal or legal, you should at least concur that making marijuana legal should be acceptable. But anyways, what he's pushing for here is against the idea of individual liberty. And individual liberty basically is a correlation to freedom. Stopping basically all drugs, not even legal drugs. I mean, he basically said he wants to end all addicting drugs. It's not, I mean, you're basically taking away someone's freedom. And not only their freedom, now you're taking away their ability to try to live pain-free. If you're in a lot of pain, you go to the doctor, sometimes you need narcotics. There's nothing wrong with that. If I am reading this correctly based on what he is saying, if you ban all of those, what are people going to do for pain? Just suffer? Now, maybe he does address this, I don't know. But that's one thing I have a problem with that. But basically with the whole porn thing now, this reminds me of 1984, where it is thought police almost, where the state decides what you can and cannot watch, what you can and cannot think. And this idea of authoritarianism is associated with the idea of order. Now, I did a past video like last week called A Message to the Left/Right, and in it I go over a lot of things. I highly recommend you watch it. I think you will like it. And one of them is that the world resides in two metaphysical structures, order and chaos. Now, everyone knows what chaos is. Chaos manifests itself in numerous ways. Maybe you're getting a divorce, or you got kicked out of school, or you have a drug problem, or your girlfriend broke up with you, etc., etc. There are numerous ways where you can descend into chaos. But just because the descent into chaos is bad, that doesn't mean the ascent into order is good. Because when you're only in order, when you live in an order society, there is nothing new for you to experience. You have already seen and heard everything that there is to hear. You become narrow-minded. Eventually, you rely on the state because you were taught growing up your whole life that the state is always right. So you are not free to think for yourself. You are not free to watch what you want, to listen to what you want, to be able to live the life the way you want to, because the state is dictating that you cannot, because they understand you better than you understand yourself. And I completely disagree with that. I think that is an illogical fallacy to the highest degree. So, that kind of brings me back to fascist economics. Based on his answers there, I think he believes in fascist economics. Now, there's a way to look at fascist economics. First off, I should say this. There is some grandeur for fascist economics because it actually does work. It has high potential to actually work to best benefit the citizens of the country. And the reason why is that the state is in control, but the state basically works in corporations. It's corporatism on steroids. And the way it's set up is that all of the citizens of the country, there's an aggregate, a pay scale, will say A to Z. No citizen can be making money below A. A is the cutoff. You have to at least make A amount of money. And nobody can make more than Z money. The amount of Z is the highest any earner can make. So the corporations they are creating and the research and development, when they are expanding their businesses, they can only do so much. They can only make so much. Where the state comes involved, where a state gets involved, is that, say there is a company in an industry, or an industry in general, that needs assistance. Say the state needs some military ammo because they're going to war. What they can do is that they would reappropriate funds. They could even take funds from the taxpayers, from the corporations, to finance endeavors in that military-industrial complex area. So the state decides what it needs best, and based on their decision there, they reappropriate funds from corporations and tax the people in general, and they use those funds to get what they need from the corporation. So that is kind of an overall sorry, yawning spill. That's kind of an overall view of fascist economics. So yeah, I disagree with Greg Johnson completely on this. I think he is wrong. I think authoritarianism does not lead to individual liberty at all. Collectivism is not freedom. I completely disagree with it. So, and I also agree with what Mouthy Buddha said. Completely agree with what he said. So it's a good video. I will post it in the description. And I'm done.